No comment.
Wait, are we on now?
Just in time. We'll call the city council meeting to order of Monday, December 21st. Roll call, please.
Feltes. Fetch.
Yep.
Olson.
Yes.
Conrad.
Present.
Wojni.
Yes.
Sensala.
Yeah.
We do have a quorum. Pledge allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a 11-item agenda with some, obviously some subtopics. If you have any questions, we may need to move number, let's see here. The chief of police may be running a little late, so she, oh, there she is. We're not even to her item yet, so. Well, she'll be here then. Yeah. So we may have to move her, but obviously we don't. Verification or posting, Angela?
Yes, the agenda was posted at City Hall, State Bank of Arcadia, and Arcadia TV and Appliance on Wednesday. Would that have been the 16th?
Yes.
By 4:30, it was posted on the city website and emailed out on the 17th.
Is there any changes to the agenda?
I just have a question.
Sure.
Up on top where it says Arcadia City Council regular meeting, the next line, Arcadia Electric Utility Meeting, can that be changed to building?
Yes.
That's probably what she meant.
If somebody looks in and.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Conrad, second by Fetch. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Public comment? Public comment?
Come on, Eddie.
Public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. There's no presentations, and we're up to number 4, old business, approval of meeting minutes from December 7th and December 15th. Entertain a motion to approve the December 7th one first.
Can I ask a question? Are we gonna read them first?
We can make a motion to approve them and then read them. Is that what you'd like to do, or read them
Okay,
first?
We'll read them first and then you approve them.
Okay.
And it doesn't take that long to read.
All right, Angela, would you like to read the minutes from December 7th meeting, please?
Arcadia City Council regular meeting December 7th at 7 p.m. here at the Arcadia Electric Building. Mayor Rob Reichling called to order the regular meeting of the Arcadia City Council at 7 p.m. with the following members present. Mayor Rob Reichling, Alderman Todd Fetch, Joe Feltes, Fred Conrad, Dan Sensala, Marlis Kolstad, City Staff Angela Berg, and Bill Chang, and various members of the public. A sign-in sheet was passed around for those public members in attendance to sign. Alderman Bob Wilson was absent. The group recited the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk Berg verified the posting of the agenda by 4:30 on Wednesday, December 2nd at City Hall, State Bank of Arcadia, and Arcadia TV and Appliance. Motion by Kolstad, seconded by Fitch to approve the agenda as presented. Motion carried 5-0. There were no public comments. Kevin Whalen from Arcadia High School gave a presentation on parliamentary procedures. He distributed handouts on this topic. Mr. Whalen would be willing to bring an FFA parliamentary procedures team to give a presentation to the city council at a later date. No formal action was taken. Motion by Feltes, seconded by Conrad to approve the meeting minutes from November 2nd, November 5th, 2015, November 16th, and November 17th, 2015. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Conrad, seconded by Feltes to approve the meeting minutes of the November 19th, 2015 meeting. Motion carried 401 with Alderman Kolstad abstaining. Motion by Conrad, seconded by Feltes to authorize Mayor Reichling to sign the escrow agreement with Dave and Tammy Tayson and to authorize Clerk Berg to open an escrow account at the State Bank of Arcadia. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Fetch, seconded by Kolstad to authorize the 2016 city levy amount to increase to $699,298 to include the county special charge of $1,000. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Conrad, seconded by Kolstad, that the $10 office co-pays for vision exams will be the responsibility responsibility of the employee. Motion carried 5-0. Superintendent Raleigh Conrad and Angela Berg gave department head updates for the street department and city hall staff. No formal action was taken. There was a discussion of a second amendment to the consulting agreement with Green Alliance Holdings Corporation. Motion by Conrad, seconded by Feltes, to postpone this agenda item until the zoning administrator can do additional research. Upon further discussion, Conrad rescinded his motion and Feltes rescinded his second on the motion. There was no action taken on this agenda item. Motion by Fetch, seconded by Feltes, to authorize Costner Cosmo and Brobold LLC to prepare an ordinance 105 amendment so that off-sale consumption hours of sale of fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquors match current state law. Current state law prohibits the retail sale of fermented malt liquor between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. And current city ordinances prohibit sale from midnight to 8 a.m. and the retail sale of intoxicating liquor between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. Current city ordinance prohibiting sales from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. Motion carried 5-0. The discussion regarding resolution 1207-1501, resolution providing for the sale of $600,000 electric system revenue bonds, series 2016A, related to the catalytic converter project, led to a discussion on whether the utilities could execute an interfund loan agreement for this project. Motion by Colstead, seconded by Fetch, to request the utility commission to review and consider if an interfund loan between the electric utility and wastewater utility was an option for financing the catalytic converter project. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Feltes, seconded by Fetch, to approve the following 2015-16 operator licenses: Ronald Benuza, Danica Pabst, and Brandon McMillan. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Fetch, seconded by Feltes, to approve the bills of general account, to hold the invoices for Green Alliance Holdings of $3,000, pending Cosner Cosmo and Bergold review of the contract, but to approve invoices that as presented in the amount of $474,683.30. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Fetch, seconded by Conrad, to approve the following election inspectors for the 2016-17 election cycle: Judy Hesh as Chief Inspector, Sally Zilla, Alternative Chief Inspector, Jane Sendelbach, Janice Sneedsick, Carla Levitt, Mary Ryan, Warren Knudsen, Teresa Natelsky, Eva Anderson, Barbara Costner, and Antoinette Johnson. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Feltes, seconded by Fetch, to authorize Johnson Block to perform the city's 2015 annual audit. Motion carried 5-0. The start time of council meetings was discussed. The meeting time will be moved to 6:30 p.m. beginning with the December 21st, 2015 council meeting. Motion by Feltes, seconded by Colstead, to go into closed session for Wisconsin State Stat Section 1985-1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction for exercise of responsibility, city hall and municipal court staffing and part-time officer wages. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Fetch, seconded by Feltes, to go into open session for Wisconsin State Stat Section 1985-2. Motion carried 5-0. Motion by Feltes, seconded by Colstead, to authorize the increase for Officer Eduardo Fernandez to $14 per hour. Motion carried 5-0. Future agenda items included special meeting pay parameters, space needs and handicap accessibility for the library, Crescendo Consulting LLC, further exploration of parliamentary procedures, or ballot properties, zoning ordinance, ordinance 104 amendment for parking at City Hall. Motion by Feltes, seconded by Fetch, to adjourn. Motion carried 5-0. Meeting ended at 9:45 p.m.
Is there any additions or corrections? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I so moved.
Motion by Fetch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And a second by Mr. Conrad.
Discussion.
And discussion.
Why do we have to read these every time, if I may ask?
Mr. Fetch.
I requested it mainly because it's a good idea to have the minutes refreshed by reading it. And besides, if we have public people here, they don't get the minutes, so I think it's a good idea to read it. I realize that it takes a little bit of time, but I think it's a good idea. Most meetings, that's what you do, you read the minutes.
At least it's suggested, and there's always, there could be like a waive the reading of the minutes. So if they are quite lengthy one night or something like that, if you wanna waive them, you sure can.
I'm good.
Any further discussion and or changes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Abstain.
motion carries. And we will read the minutes from the December 15th, 2015 meeting as well.
Alright, Arcadia City Council, regular meeting, special meeting, Tuesday, December 15th, 2015 at 4:30 PM, City Hall Council Chambers. Mayor Rob Reichling called to order the special meeting of the Arcadia City Council at 4:30 PM with the following members present. Mayor Rob Reichling, Alderpersons Fritz Conrad, Todd Fetch, Joe Feltes, Dan Sensala, Bob Wojni, Marlis Bolstead, City Staff Angela Berg, and Bill Chain. Also present were Tim Putz from the Arcadia Electric Utility, Debbie Foss from the Trumbull County Times, and Nan Bischoff from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The group recited the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk Burge verified the posting of the agenda by 4:30 PM on Friday, December 11th, 2015, at City Hall, the State Bank of Arcadia, and Arcadia TV and Appliance. There were no public comments. Nan Bischoff gave an overview of the Section 205 grant and where the city and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are in the overall project. In September 2014, the city applied for and received a $50,000 Section 205 federal grant, which generated the determination of federal interest report in May of 2015. A second infusion of $50,000 grant was given to the city to develop project management plan, U.S. Corps feasibility study cost estimate, local estimate of working kind, and feasibility cost share agreement. It was discussed that the city could submit hydraulic reports to support GENE and FEMA flood maps, but there is no guarantee by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on FEMA's determination on the flood maps. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are at the point to conduct a feasibility study with the city, which would require a 50% match by the city to move forward in the project at an estimated cost of $1,154,343, with $577,171.50 the city cost share. These funds were reallocated at the December 16th, 2015.
That was
City
November,
council
excuse
meeting?
me, November 16th.
What's that?
That was in November.
November.
Yeah.
The time frame for a study, for a Section 205 feasibility study and levy project is as follows, and these are approximate. Feasibility study, 12 to 18 months, design, 12 months, construction, 2 construction seasons, and then operation and maintenance manuals. And this was a working session and no formal action was taken by the council. Future agenda items included location of city council meetings, discussion of a city manager or city administrator, more discussion on rules of conduct for council meetings. And there was a motion by Feltes, second by Fetch to adjourn, which that motion carried 6-0. And the meeting ended at 5:45 PM and the minutes were respectfully submitted by Angela Berg.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Wojni, second by Mr. Fetch. So any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. We are on to number 4B, discussion and possible approval of the 2016 BCC Now LLC contract. I think this was probably since the middle of November.
Yeah, I
Maybe you
believe,
guys have worked on it?
yeah, well, I believe it came up for discussion, the contract was not drafted at that time, so it's being brought back again. The budget consideration is $33,600. The work being performed is listed under page 1, and this was, actually, I don't know how long we've been contracted with these,
This would be our second, 2015 was the first calendar year where he didn't bill us on an hourly basis, but billed us a contract amount. He found that he was, here significantly more hours, especially with the police department, than he had anticipated. And so, his, contract increased for 2016, and, this was budgeted for in the general fund budget.
I get we gotta, I mean, it's gonna cost money to do this. is this normal to have that much need for something like that? I'm just asking. Are computers shop, or why is he so busy here?
Believe, and Diana, I don't know if you could interject, but I think there's been, well, we moved to a server-based, documentation class for storing files,
No, that wasn't
that wasn't
our
it.
new, but, you know, any time we have to troubleshoot, and we do some troubleshooting on our accounting software, you know, we seem to have had some issues, you know, installing things. We just had to install our tax software, which there was a big conflict with our server on that. You know, to be perfectly honest, he's not spending significantly more time in my department, but Diana's, and, if she could maybe speak towards that.
In our department, we had an old network that all of our own police department stuff was run on. City Hall has their own network. Ours was to the point where it was ready to crash, and we needed to back up all of our data onto a new network. So we spent a lot of time doing that. Not only that, but we have computers in our offices, and we have different computers in our squads. And there are certain programs for both of those computers that have to go through the state of Wisconsin, but we have to make both computers talk to each other, and that in itself takes a lot of time. Unfortunately, the programs that we have to use in our squads are run through the state, and they have a lot of bugs in them. And at certain times, there'll be different virus software that he has to run through them, or updates. He does all the loading of our electronic citations. Any new software that comes in, he takes care of that as well. He's been really good about, if we have an issue at 3 o'clock in the morning, we can text him or call him. He can remotely go on from his house versus driving all the way in to take care of it, so.
Oh, and I understand we gotta have stuff running, but I was, you know, it's a lot of money, and not that it isn't worth it, that's not what I'm saying. But if that money could be spent to update equipment, would that work, or would we still need somebody that much?
We would still need somebody to keep them running as to what they need to be. We have newer computers, so
I
it's
think
not.
the software updates change so often that
Correct.
you're.
So you're saying that the machines have to be compatible to one another,
Yes,
correct?
they have to talk to one another for us to be able to.
I get it.
Yep.
Diana, how many hours does he spend?
I couldn't tell you. He's there several days a week, and it's not only he's doing stuff for us at City Hall, and Marv and I are also working on him building us some programs in the police department versus me buying them outright elsewhere at a ridiculous cost. There was one program I looked at, it'd be over 10 grand. He said he could do it for less than probably 1,500. So I look at it that way too, where if he can help us out and build a program
Or
versus.
that wouldn't be in his, if we have him, isn't he on like retainer?
No, this is an independent contract, so, you know, computer, you know, we paid, I think, 50 or 70, between $50 and $100 an hour for him before we had him under contract. And that adds up quite a bit if you have, you know, a virus or an issue with something. $33,000 is a lot of money. You know, he doesn't come in on an hourly basis, he doesn't punch a clock because of, you know, with that, more of an independent contractor relationship. You know, we agree that for $33,600, he's gonna get the job done, that's outlined in the contract.
Any other discussion, questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Conrad. Second. Second by Mr. Fetch. Clerk will call the roll.
Fetch,
Yes?
Olsted,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yep.
Wojni,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yep.
Discussion of possible action to adopt a request for professional services policy. This was you as well.
Yeah, I believe, some time ago, the city council had actually requested for some kind of standard policy, to be able to go out and solicit bids, a request for, proposal policy itself. So, with that, it actually went over to KKB. KKB drafted this policy that you see before yourself. It outlines, looks here like the minimum requirements for any services, over $15,000 for, all financial appraisals, engineering, architectural, risk management, human resource, compensation, or administrative services engaged by the city, from independent professional consultants or contractors, which should exclude the city attorney, the city engineer, and the city assessor services. So moving forward, if you do decide to adopt this policy, we would go off of this, and in accordance. So, yeah, and I think this came about from the Pinnacle and Crescendo and the agreements that we've entered in the past couple of years. This was requested by the city council.
Has everybody had a chance to read it? Any questions, changes, suggestions? This is not necessarily something that needs to be approved tonight.
No,
If you guys need more time to do it, or if you feel comfortable doing it now, otherwise we can always make changes.
This is recommended
This is recommended.
by our,
Yeah, this came from the law office.
Bill in the law office, yep.
okay, so,
And it was requested by members of the council.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
You specifically exclude attorney, the city attorney and the city assessor. It might be a good idea to exclude the, the auditing services, because in aggregate, that, if you take the utilities plus the general fund, that exceeds $15,000 per year. But maybe have a policy to bid that out every, 5 years or at a certain, an auditor isn't something you want to over year after year, but, looking at that maybe in a 3 or 5 year basis, to get that idea.
So maybe you wanna hold off on that, Fritz, is what you said?
I
Maybe till the
think
next
so.
meeting,
You
and
know,
just
so we
change.
can make sure that's what we wanna do as far as the auditing and, yeah.
Sounds fine. We've lived without it before, we can live without it 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
Is there any other discussion or changes you wanna see with that?
would there be, a little handout maybe until the next meeting, or when we would discuss this, whether, why, or what we would want to do to, clarify this, so that we could make a decision? I mean, it's a lot of legalese here, a little bit, so, although it has the points right here, I'm just kinda wondering if it would be simplified. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can summarize it up in a short summary. And basically what it is it's studying, when we go out for a request, when we submit a request for proposal, it's like an application. And so what this policy does is it sets those items within that application, so that when someone responds back to our application, they have to include that information in their request, their proposal, is essentially what it is.
So if the mayor asks for a consultant to come in for anything, not, I
Right.
shouldn't say anything, but other than what is not defined by that scope, anything over $15,000 has to be put out onto bid. So like Pinnacle Engineering or Crescendo Marketing, which is gonna raise money, for a new city hall, instead of just going out looking for one or two, we put it out onto bids and see if there's anybody else interested in bidding on the project.
This was basically a result of our situation this last year, I think,
Well, I don't know if it
partially anyway.
I don't know if it directly is that, but the request was from city council, I don't remember who it was
Yeah.
in particular, but.
That's.
I do remember that now. Yeah.
Fritz is one of the.
You were one of the ones that suggested that
Yeah,
as a policy.
Yeah.
yeah, you remember.
I do have a question, refresh my memory how the $15,000 was the dollar amount before we needed more bids.
I wasn't involved in that.
Yeah, I don't remember where the $15,000 comes from, I think it's, there's a certain amount of money if it's a construction that has to go out to bid. I don't know if it's necessarily the same for all these other subjects. I mean, we can definitely change that to go to a lower or higher amount, but keep in mind there is some time on the staff end to be able to pull all together for each project.
Right.
don't know where this number came
It was,
Okay.
construction's like 5,000, you gotta get prices, right?
I
And
think it
over
depends.
25,000, you gotta advertise for
Yeah.
things.
Right, yeah, there's different criteria.
Right.
Well, I don't think that we want to up that number.
So we can go around, no, I'm good with it, you are.
No, I think we should put it in there, what Angela would like added in there, guardian services. Would have to be listed as a time frame. We can bring it back in 2 weeks. And if there's any changes that anybody else sees, if money, if we want the money to go down, but like Bill said, you know, it's kind of a fine line. It takes
Right.
time on our hands to create bid proposals and stuff like that as well.
You know, $1 amount to suggest is, you know, a lot of times if you're doing work that's more than $5,000, you have, you know, you don't necessarily have to take it out from bid, but you have to notice it in the newspaper, so, you know, maybe $5,000 or $10,000 would be a, you know, a more comfortable number for you guys to consider.
I guess 10 comes to my mind, but I don't know how the rest of you feel. Right.
I'm good with that.
Mr. Conrad's fine with that. Anybody else suggestions on that? They're open.
I think as long as we got a guide, and this is what, it's the same every time.
And they would hold accountability too.
Right.
Well, you don't want it so low that you have to get a bid for everything, but
Right.
you don't want it too high so that you're not being fiscally responsible.
Right. Bill, maybe can you change that to 10 as well? Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll just move on to the Arcadia recycling contract. The approval of the conflict of interest waiver between City of Arcadia, Costner, Cosel, and Brolo related to the Arcadia recycling contract.
Yeah, KKB represents both, Mr. Santal and Arcadia Recycling in the city. So he had requested for that waiver, for this issue.
Is there any questions? Otherwise, we'll make a motion to approve the conflict of interest waiver between the City of Arcadia and Costner, Cosmo, and Brobel related to the Arcadia recycling contract.
I so move.
Motion by Mr. Fetch. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Colston. Any discussion, any changes?
So by saying this, what's the meat of the matter?
Basically,
Oh.
he doesn't want to handle
represents
both.
Okay, now I understand.
Okay.
So who's handles it then, or?
He does, but just so we're aware.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
It's like the fox watching the hen house.
Either here, there's a lot of them on these.
Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Colston,
Yes.
Conrad,
Yes.
Wojni,
Yes.
Sensala,
Yeah,
Fetch.
Yes.
And then will be approval of Arcadia recycling contract and authorization for mayor to sign contract.
I so move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Fetch, second by Mr. Wojni. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Conrad,
Yes.
Wojni.
Yes.
Sensala,
abstain.
Fetch,
Yes.
Colston.
Yes.
Motion carries. And approval of assignment of Arcadia recycling contract to Four Brothers Recycling.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Conrad, second by Mr. Fetch. Is it a race tonight or what?
Yeah.
Any discussion?
You've been numb this room.
Yeah. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Wojni,
Yes.
Sensala,
Abstain.
Fetch,
Yes.
Colston.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
We're on to number 5, board and commission updates. Utility commission update on the utility interfund loan of $600,000.
I would take it, but can you give the meat of the matter? You know more than I can try and remember. I tried to take notes and I couldn't keep up, so.
Sure, you want, we had a meeting last week on the 16th of December, you know, on the discussion, you know, and it kind of focused on, what the electric utility would save in interest costs, what the sewer utility would gain in the increased, interest earnings versus having it, at the bank. You know, with Tim reserve should remain and what's really available. You know, the wastewater utility does have some significant projects coming up. You know, there's a project on, you know, McKinley Street and some other things, that'll be coming, some new requirements down the line. But, you know, if something could be worked out where there was kind of a call option, whereas if Tim's department borrowed the money and then or the wastewater utility needed it, that they could then go get that loan and try to do it in-house. That is the goal. We'll know more in January, and it'll come back to the council after that utility meets in January.
I spoke with Mr. Plix as well, and this catalytic converter project would save the county, or the city over, I think he said 20 years. I think like $4.3 or $4.6 million in savings.
In kind of like fines we pay because we
Right.
don't have it?
Right.
Not fines, but what do they call that?
Well, you can
Emission
pay,
credits?
yes. Which I believe one or two of the generators are not even capable of having the conversion done because they're so old. They
Yeah.
don't create enough back pressure from two of them.
Are they gonna still use them then?
They're gonna be out of commission the way it sounds, because
Yeah.
they can't put catalytic converters on it, because they're too old.
They're going to slowly take them up.
Retired.
From my understanding, they're slowly dwindling to where they're to the point they can't put a converter on them because those two generators are too old.
They don't create enough back pressure.
Yeah,
It's one of
they
the-
can't get enough back pressure for the converter to work properly.
So are they gonna remove them in time and
They'll probably have to be removed
Just
somewhere
right.
down the road, or just sit
With
there
the
for.
Historical Society.
they're cool, have you ever seen them?
Yeah. So that we'll have no action on, and we'll look for that, probably in the first part of February.
Yeah, end of January.
Is there any questions in regards to that project? Hearing none, we'll hear from Chief Diane Anderson.
Update on my department, I haven't been to a council meeting to give you guys an update in a while. The last time I had spoken, I was telling you guys about where we're at with our new squad. I think it was back in April, we got council approval to go ahead and get a brand new squad. We had ordered it right away. We first got it and it is now running, and we have it in November. I don't know if you guys recall, but there was some backdating on some parts that we couldn't. It was through the Dodge dealership. We ended up getting a really good deal. They gave us the same price amount on the squad that they had bid it for us back in April. And we ran up another 20-some thousand miles on the old one. They gave us a change of tires and a lot of the wear and tear type stuff. We got a lot more use out of the one that we were trading in, and they gave us the exact same money, or we paid the same amount as they had given us for the bid. With that being said, we got a newer year truck as well. That's been we've been using it since I think the beginning of November when we traded the old one off. We've been very busy in our department. There's been a lot of bigger calls, I could say. I'm sure some of you guys have heard them in the news or whatnot. We also had an intern with us. He was from Winona State. His name was Neil Lechtenberg. He did 480 hours worth of internship within our department, and it was all for free. He has to do it to graduate from college. So he did a lot of things for our department and City Hall as well, filing and shredding, and did some ride-alongs and got to see what the entire job entails. With that being said, we've had a couple new part-timers that we've been putting in and working as well, and I have another new individual that'll be starting in January that'll be starting part-time for us as well.
And who's that?
His name is Josiah Vogt. He's from Eau Claire area. He's actually a Marine. So he went to school with Eduardo Hernandez, who's also a part-time officer for us.
I appreciate you letting us know, cause it's happened since I've been on the council a couple times. I'm with somebody and there's a police officer and they say, who's that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Would you guys as a council want me to bring somebody in that's in field training to just introduce them? Keep in mind, like when they're in field training, does not mean that we are going to keep them on our roster or on our staff. There's certain criteria and curriculum that they have to pass through before they actually can work part-time for us. So upon completion of their field training, would you like me to have them come to the council meeting so everybody can be introduced formally?
That'd be a good idea.
Okay,
Nice
can do
and
that.
It works within their schedule.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know all you guys yet.
That cause more trouble.
I suppose. I'm a troublemaker. Question, have we done anything about this cat ordinance thing, or are we doing something on that order, or
Cat ordinance, that's
Oh,
new
well.
to me.
cat control or something like that? There's a lot of stray cats, and there was some kind of discussion perhaps once upon a time. Is that, is Chris?
Yeah,
gonna-
Chris Haynes was working on that. That was down by
Okay,
Ruth Street or somewhere down there.
I
in
think
that
it's
area.
Gillespie. Apartments are having some problems with it.
Okay.
But, you know, such as how to handle it and all that, I've got some information, I think I gave it to Chris too, about Trumbull County has a program of handling this type of a thing, and I don't know if it means we have to have all cats have rabies tags, or would
Well,
that
I
be
did
fun?
also in part lately, what I've been doing is working with Bill and rewriting a lot of the ordinances that pertain to the police department. And the dog/animal ordinance was one of them that I pretty much destroyed and started over, cause it was really old. It was what, maybe a page, and it's like 9 now after I got done with that. So cats is in there, but, maybe that's something we can discuss when we get to that for review.
What is the number of cats, like, in a house?
Well, and that's part of the ordinance that we worked on. Right now, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing on cats.
Yeah, we have to have a certain number of kids.
It's like 12 in a garage a lot.
It's how big of a garage.
I mean, it depends. If you got 15 litter boxes, it ain't that bad.
Is there something in there for a number of dogs and all that stuff too?
Yes, yep, I worked on all of
Is it
that.
2 or 3?
I think 3 is what I put in there.
Well, no, that's 2.
I don't know about cats.
I think 3 is a good number.
Well, and then also I made sure to put in that ordinance as well, and you'll review that, but, if there's a certain exceeding that 3, then they have to get a different permit to be able to, like, it's like a boarding type fee to have them.
7.
One would be too many in my
Or
house.
kennel fee or something like that?
Yes.
Right, I think the same thing that county does.
Yes.
Yeah. Food for thought.
Any other discussion or questions? We'll move on to, public hearings. There are none scheduled for this evening. Discussion and possible approval of sponsoring Mitchell Zostra as a student in law enforcement academy. The
In
chief
your
can
packet
again
of information
discuss this.
that you guys got, you can kind of see what, Bill helped me write up in regards to Mitch. Mitch is, from Arcadia. He was an intern through Winona State with our police department in 2014. He was one of those individuals that had to do the 480 hours. Since then, he's come back multiple times for different programs and things that we've had going on. And he's volunteered his time to help out within the department. He's also come back when I had this latest intern to have, Mitch showed the individual some things that, Mitch had left off on to kind of get Neil up to speed as to, where to continue with the project. Mitch has expressed a lot of interest in becoming a police officer. He is now done and graduated Winona State and has a 4-year degree. Him and I have had multiple conversations about him going to school, and possible sponsorship by the police department. In years past, when Pat Graduleski was the chief, he had sponsored individuals through the police department to go to the technical college. There was a couple circumstances where it didn't work out, or those people didn't pay it forward, you should say, and make sure that they stay with our department for a certain amount of time. Like, they would go to school, they'd turn around and leave, and they'd never step foot in our door. I sat down and actually worked with Mayor Reichwein and came up with some criteria that if we'd go forth with sponsoring Mitch, that he'd have to abide by. For instance, that the school has to touch base with me on a periodic basis, telling me that Mitch should be doing everything that needs to be, his grades are up to par, At any point in time, if he fails out of school, drops out of school, it's now his cost, he has to pay for it. If he gets in any trouble criminally, he has to pay for it. He would be considered an employee with the City of Arcadia Police Department, but we would not pay him to go to school. The state of Wisconsin has a program, and that's also included in there, that they sponsor up to so much money that they refund back to the department. So what would end up happening is the Arcadia Police Department would put our name on Mitch. He would go to school at Chippewa Valley Technical College. We would quote unquote foot the bill at first, which there isn't a bill right away, it's at the end of his training. And then the state would reimburse us. So it's pretty much just a check passing through the police department to pay CVTC, then the state pays us back to reimburse it.
After he gets his degree or after he finishes school?
Yes,
He has to prove that first before.
Yes.
yes,
Okay, okay,
yes.
okay.
What's the amount on there? I can't remember. I think-
4720.
4720.
Okay, yeah, and I think it was up to $5,000 the state will reimburse. Yes,
And there's a guarantee that he's gonna be
yes,
a part-timer for your department
yes.
for what, 2-3 years?
A year, it's also in the paperwork, he had signed off on it as well. He will be a part-timer with our police department for a minimum of a year.
Part-timers aren't that easy to come by, are they?
No, especially good ones.
And we wanna do something, and what Diana suggested having them at least a year to try it, since this is our first one. And we don't wanna
Right.
tie their hands, and if they're gonna move after a year, go somewhere else, but at least they're, help us out for
Yep.
a year. We started talking 2 or 3 years,
What
you
helps us
kinda
for a year,
inhibit
and
the
it
kid
really
on where
doesn't
they
cost
wanna
us
move,
anything.
Right.
what their,
Yeah.
what their college,
Yeah.
what they
Well,
wanna.
no, once he would graduate from school, he would go through the field training, FTO program within our police department as well. The day that he's off of his field training with our department would be the calendar date would start for that year of him working part-time for us. So his FTO might take 2 months. Does that make sense? After the end of his FTO was when he would first start his day of his year's worth of working for our police department. We would pay him part-time to work for us. Yes.
Now, is he legal to carry a gun? No, I mean,
He's not certifiable. They're going to send him to school. He starts January 4th.
what schooling did he have so far?
He's got a 4-year degree. Yes, in criminal justice.
Oh,
Yes.
so now he has to take the,
Academy.
The 720-hour law enforcement academy through the state of Wisconsin.
okay.
What does that cost? That's the 47. Yep.
Is this a BA or big
No.
house?
This is just a state certification. Any law enforcement officer
that
has to
makes
have
sense.
60 college credits, and it could be underwater basket weaving, anything. After you have 60 college credits, then you go to the law enforcement academy for 720 hours worth. And at that point, you're considered certifiable. You have 3 years to get picked up by a police department, either part-time or full-time, until you're certified. Then, once you've become certified and you're associated with a department, you have to spend 24 hours worth every year, making sure your certifications are up to date and training.
Continuing education, right?
Yep.
I remember that.
Need a motion. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to the approval of sponsoring Mitchell Dostro, who was a student in law enforcement academy.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Sensala, second by Mr. Fetch. Any other discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Sensala.
Yeah.
Fetch.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
Wojni.
Yes.
Motion carries. Discussion and possible approval of this for city to join MEUW safety program.
I can take that one. Back in September, Tim Puts and the electric utility joined the MEU safety program. It's worked out very well for him, and what it allows, one point of contact. There's, safety requirements for each department. Different departments have different requirements, whether it's, first aid and CPR, bloodborne pathogen, work zone safety. There's just a whole gamut of things, and by having, Tim paid like $13,500 and sewer utility is also going on board with this, and if we can make it, you know, citywide and have all departments on it, we have kind of one safety director, that, you know, if anything happens, you call and you come in and they're there and,
Who's the safety director?
well, who would it be? Through MEW, his name is Mark Rumpel, he lives just outside of Arcadia, I don't know if any of you know him.
Ronnie's boy?
Yes. Yes.
So the cost to have, you know, all city employees on it would be $20,750 annually. And if that was split, 3 ways, the electric and then water and sewer and general fund, it would be $6,900 annually. I think it's a very good comprehensive way to make sure that the city is up to date in our training plans for our employees.
Do we have have we had a lot of accidents and a lot of workman comp claims?
We're
or-
fortunate.
You don't wanna wait till you do.
This is preventive medicine.
Yeah, but why do we gotta pay $20,000 a year? We should be doing this anyhow.
You gotta have somebody
Right, but
with
you
skills.
want to fight a fire before it's flat.
I think the nice thing of going through an agency like this is that they know, they keep you on a system, and Tim was one of the better departments, nothing against Raleigh, but I mean, they were continually, getting
Current.
safety awards and getting current, and he said over the last 2 or 3 years, they have seen it themselves slip and not keep on top of their safety training and stuff like that, where, that's why he decided to go with MEUW, and he thinks it was a great idea.
Yes. But my question is, are we gonna still be able to run with as lean a staff? I don't feel the electric or the water runs with a lean staff, and is that the reason why? I mean, and that's their deal, I'm not criticizing it, but, you know, you start getting all these programs you get into, pretty soon, the people you got can't get the work done,
Well, I think,
because you're spending too much time
I think not
winning
doing,
awards.
I think not doing it is the same way. Those guys that could be out doing stuff on the electric or on the street department are instead sitting at their desk developing safety procedures and doing the training, where now someone's coming in with a program in hand, and we don't have to have Raleigh sitting behind his desk creating these manuals and having him train his people. Somebody's coming in and doing it.
And doing it right.
So what does this $20,750,000 annually cover? Does it cover the training, does it cover?
It covers the training, it covers the manuals, it covers the tracking, you know, they have a backup system, so everything, you know, all the documents are maintained off-site and there's a backup. It's just, you know, it's good preventative, I believe. You know, no one wants to have to sit through a bunch of training, you know, in talking with Mark, you know, there's specific requirements per department that we really need to be following, and, you know, part of that includes, you know, we do our hearing tests annually and different things, but, none of us are experts, and things change so fast that, you know, in talking with Tim, and Bill and I sat down and had a conversation with Mark Rumpel, you know, regarding this, and, you know, it's not something that if the city joined January 1st of 2016 and gave it a year, you know, we could reevaluate it, but I personally think $6,900, to have a go-to person, and to be up to date on our training, is a good investment.
It's not $6,900 though, it's $20,000.
That's our
But
part.
the city,
But
the
Utility.
I know,
utility's already
but
paid.
everybody, we're still utility
Right.
users,
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
Well, for those of us that have to go for continuing education, they stay current, you get your certificates or whatever that you completed it, we're protected. I think it's a good thing.
Well, in either way, we're still spending money, whether it's somebody on the clock that's currently an employee that's developing this stuff and putting people through training, or we're hire somebody outside of it.
The one
I mean,
that-
do you do any training, Raleigh, or Diana? I mean, as far as this stuff, and how much time do you put forward?
We do,
obviously a lot of training in our department, we do our monthly trainings. And Angela did show me a list of what Mark had proposed for my department, probably half of which we already do, but the other half I would have never thought of because we've done it at some point when we probably went through our academy in school, but it's a good refresher, you know, bloodborne pathogens. We deal with it more than probably wastewater guys do, but I mean, it's a good refresher as to what to do and if you aren't doing it correctly.
We do the bloodborne, and we do first aid and CPR. I personally think, you know, if something ever happened, then you got them guys to lean on.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that, and I expressed this to Angela, is if he's gonna come in and say, we're gonna be in here doing a training twice a month, it's no secret that we run awfully lean over in the street
Right.
department. And we don't have time to be sitting here for 8 hours a month. And I expressed that to Angela.
But he wouldn't, like, the other day, Carla works she goes over to the electric utility and helps out here and there, and she ran over there, for a bloodborne pathogen video, and it was less than a half an hour. So, I mean, he would work, and I talked to Mark, and he would certainly work with you to, schedule those things at the most advantageous time for you, and not to eat up your guys' entire, week. I mean, our goal is not to train you to death, but to get you, to keep you.
Yeah, we had this talk, and I just said, I don't wanna be sitting in here 8 hours a month, because we can't do it.
If it's 8 hours a month, I would think that's overkill, personally, but.
Well, right, but then you start
But
taking 8 hours a month
this is how it
for
goes down.
employees, that's-
You pay him 20,000, and next year you reevaluate. He says, well, I better throw a little more training in there to make this 20,000 look good. And pretty soon we're in here 8 hours a day. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about, so.
And I have a question, does this 20,750 cover the safety director? Or is that extra with the
No,
safety?
that
Oh,
that
yeah.
includes all full-time employees, so it would include training for the library staff, Eva and her part-timers in the summer, city hall staff,
Yeah,
the
I-
police department, the street
Right,
department.
we're not, this is all included then from our Rumple's salary, we're not.
Yes, yeah, this is a
That's-
flat rate.
Okay, that was what I was wondering, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
Well, it would just be a year,
It would just be
a year to see, we could always reevaluate, but,
And he would fit people's schedules, try to,
Well, he
Good
lives,
schedule.
he lives right here too, so that would be really accommodating.
There's nothing after hours.
Well, it's
Yeah.
still close, but I mean, he's not coming from the cities or like that.
Just something to
What
consider
I'm-
that,
okay.
the training is required by the Department of Safety and Professional Services. So either way, it's either him doing safety coordinating and training, or it's a staff member doing it, usually HR or myself, and so, just take that into consideration also.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
I will so move.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Wajni, seconded by Ms. Olsted.
Where's that money coming from?
It's gonna come from, taking some out of the training budgets that are budgeted for next year. And then when we when we did the budget, there were overages that were budgeted in the city hall. Health insurance, that number was too high.
Corporal call the roll.
Petch,
Yes?
Colstead?
Yes.
Conrad?
Yes,
Wojni?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
absolutely.
Item B, adoption of ordinance, Item C, discussion and adoption of ordinance 153C relating to adopting 2016 sewer rates for the Arcadia wastewater utility.
So moved.
Move for approval by Mr. Conrad.
Second.
A second.
They're going down, in case anybody wanted, right?
Can you read the numbers of what they're going down, Angela? Members of the public
The
know?
residential equivalency charge will remain the same at $15 an hour, but the domestic volumetric charge in 2015 was $1.96 per thousand gallons, and in 2015 it was $1.96, and 2016 it's proposed to be $1.70. Holding tank charge is $4.09 per thousand gallons,
I'm ready.
plus the 25% $25 trip charge, and it's gonna go down to $3.14. Septic will go down from $11.47 per thousand gallons to $10.12. The industrial process unit prices flow, it'll go down from $1.13 to 95 cents per thousand gallons. EOD, $162.18 will go up slightly to $165.20, and phosphorus is the biggest decrease from $8,590.15 to $5,471.46. And the biggest reason there is, the wastewater treatment plant is just overall using less chemical to treat, out there.
Yeah, are them reed beds, is that doing their thing?
They are.
Yes.
That was a good idea.
Is there any questions? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Hi, can I just, who was the second on that motion?
Mr. Fetch.
Mr.
I did?
Yeah.
I thought I did, but.
That's all right.
Okay, Colstead.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
Wojni.
Yes.
Sensala.
Yeah.
Fetch.
Yes.
Motion carries. Adoption of ordinance 105G and ordinance amending ordinance 105 relating to licensing sales of intoxicating liquors and fermented malt beverages in the city of Arcadia. This was discussed last month, sent to the attorneys, to mirror what the state statute is.
From 8 AM to 6, right?
So we got it backed up from 8 AM to 6 AM?
6 AM, yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
you guys can get us 12 back early.
I so moved.
Second.
We adopt that.
Motion by Mr. Fetch, second by Mr. Wojni. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Conrad.
Yes.
Wojni.
Yes.
Sensala.
Yeah,
Fetch.
Yes.
Holstead.
Yes.
And keep in mind, adopted tonight, it'll get published in the newspaper on December 31st, and then it'll become law on January 1st, which is kind of a cut at the beginning of the year.
Will we send out letters to all the people that have,
I'll pick you up at 6, New Year's morning, we'll go to the store and get
quick trip.
So right there.
a bottle of Chardonnay.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
It's in the water.
Yeah,
We're all-
Yeah, you said January 1?
Smoking good.
I'll go tell Jeff tomorrow then.
TJ Swan.
Yeah.
Don Perignon.
That's paper bag stuff.
discussion and possible adoption of ordinance 205 housing code. Mr. Chang?
So, the Housing and Building Standards Committee was tasked with enforcing ordinance 205, which is it's called the housing code, but it pertains to the rental units in town here. This code the ordinance was originally passed back in 2007, and to my research, it's never been enforced. With it being tasked to the Housing and Building Standards Committee, that committee took a look at the current language in the ordinance and decided that some of the language in that ordinance is obsolete. So, through a process of that lasted several months, the committee did make some changes to the ordinance. The changes include changing the wording or the language from a Housing Advisory Commission, which doesn't exist anymore, to the Housing and Building Standards Committee. Changing the makeup and appointment of committee members. I believe that commission previously included the police chief, fire chief, a health official that the city does not have, and other appointed members such as members of council. Currently, the people the members that sit on the committee is Councilmember Sensala, Councilmember Wozny, and Councilmember Colstead. So we updated the ordinance to reflect the appointment process. In the ordinance, we also updated the reference to the fair housing ordinance. If you remember, that was passed by the city council under what is now 221. It used to be 144, and that brought it up to date with the state code. And then on establishing fees, for this ordinance. The original ordinance had set the fee by resolution, for what's called a license fee. That license fee would be good for 5 years, and there's an application process, and it was $5. And so the committee took a look at that and had thought that a better way to impose fees would be by the application itself and then by the inspection, because for every application that comes in, there needs to be an inspection to make sure that it's in compliance with not only 205, but ordinance 126, which is the construction code, the building construction code. And so what we have before us is the new code, and I'll let the committee members speak.
Any committee people have any comments? Dan?
No, I think Bill covered it pretty well. I mean, we did work really hard on this, it was way out of date. I don't know, what was it, 4 or 5 meetings, I think, just on this one ordinance to get it to where it is right now. The fees did go up, the application fee went up, but it's over a course of 5 years, so really, to a rental unit, it's minimal charge. I mean, I forget what it come out to, like, what was it?
It's, I believe it's $50 per application and $100 per inspection.
So, right, so that, and that's
Rentals?
for every rental unit, yes. So if you have a fourplex, it's $100 for every unit in that fourplex.
Rentals only.
Pardon?
A
Rentals only.
A rental unit.
That's to cover the time, so the application will be to cover the time for review of the application and the processing that takes place. The $100 will be the inspection fee. If you look in the packet, or the packet's online, if you look through the checkoff list for the inspection, it's to have an inspector read through our ordinance and to be able to check off on the checklist, we estimated an hour of time, so about $50 an hour.
It's good because then we have some meat on paper, so we can kind of keep track of what's going on in our city, rather than waiting till it's dilapidated and then somebody makes a call and then then it's a mess for everybody. So we just thought by doing the inspections so many a year, we would have a better grasp of what's going on.
Who's gonna do the inspections?
That's kind of up in the area.
Oh, so,
Currently,
The police department?
if this goes into effect, then I would go out there and take the measurements and do the inspections, but we've talked about, what the method is that we're gonna go ahead and do the inspection. If you read the ordinance, it doesn't take effect until, I believe, July sometime. But it would be a process to get there.
To make sure they're getting rid of their garbage and it's not a ravel for the neighbors, and I mean, it's just to do an inspection, we know what's going on.
Say Bob had a rental.
Safety,
Yeah,
safety,
and not a mess.
right, and safety not only for the renter, but for the property owner, so that the renters can't come back and say,
Emergency services? I mean,
right,
Fritz and
Police,
I
the
are
fire.
the only ones in the
Right.
fire department, but we've been in houses where she's passed.
Yeah.
right, well, and occupancy wise too,
oh,
so you can,
I work in public health.
right, monitor.
Hoarders, we've seen
Right,
it.
and that,
My question is if say Bob has a rental, and he's renting to me, and I've rented there for 5 years, does he still have to pay for an inspection every 5 years?
every 5 years.
But if he wants to rent, continuing on it.
Okay, that's,
Well, it's not every 5 years, so it's inspection once every 5 years.
Right.
So the license is good for 5 years, there's about approximately 500 units out there. So the committee had talked about possibly doing 100 units per year until we get into that cycle.
you get, okay,
And so, you're looking at, a phase and approach, not necessarily doing them all at one time. And when you do the fees are gonna be once every 5 years, because that's how the license,
That's
unless there's a complaint. And
that's $100 per unit?
The $100 is for the inspection fee
Per
per
unit.
unit.
So if you have a duplex, so you're paying $200?
Correct.
How about
That
like,
sounds a little outrageous to me as a landlord.
Over 5
Excuse
years?
me? Yeah,
That's
Divide it
$20
out.
a year.
It's a fee for what? If you have 100 units you're gonna do a year, isn't that $10,000? Where's this money gonna go to and what is the purpose of it? I understand your safety
It's gonna pay for
issues.
the inspector,
Yeah.
number
Who
one.
we don't know who it is right now,
Right, and it's
correct?
not gonna start till June.
July.
I mean, I
in
understand
July.
the city of Arcadia has a lot of old buildings that are used as rental properties, but I think in retrospect to anybody that has just built any new duplexes or whatever in the city, I think there should be a different sort of, if it's a new building, I don't know, you guys are working on a slippery slope there for,
Because you don't know who's gonna be coming in there. You, how do, where,
Where do you draw-
are
where
you
do you
gonna let
draw
it
the
get
line?
dilapidated before
no,
you
I'm
put
not
it in?
saying that, but it's like, so you're gonna have an inspector come in, and you already have, you have to go according to build a duplex, you have to go through the county to get all your permits and licenses, and you have to go through, and it's a pain in the butt.
No, you don't.
No, you don't have to go through the company.
We are a one-stop shop here in
You
Arcadia.
guys are a one-stop shop, well, you got your own courthouse here, so I guess, or a judge or whatever, so. I guess as a landlord myself, I understand where you guys are coming from for safety issues, because you have a lot of older buildings here, but I think it's kind of intrusive.
Well, and it could be not just because it's older, just because they're new, doesn't mean they may be built to specs on the outside, but on the inside, who knows what's going on in there.
No, the other thing that I've seen other cities do is, you know, put a clause in there saying that, you know, if it's 5 years or newer, then this code wouldn't apply, and that'd be up to the committee and the council to decide.
Well, and
Everybody
if
gets
we
the
have,
same
if we have 500 units and it's gonna take you 5 years, maybe you put the newer ones on the back end of the,
Yeah,
of
then
the
they're not
cycle.
doing no more.
Now, I also have to say there is a bill that's going through the state assembly right now that would essentially wipe out the city's power to be able to do this, whether it be inspections or permitting or licensing, and that's working its way through the system right now.
Bill, would that take, how would you say, precedence over a city's type of thing then? The state would, huh? And then we have to do whatever the state says.
Correct.
No, actually, you would just do whatever the landlord says, or the landowner, not the state.
A question on, I don't see anything on here, refuse in yards or is that supposed to be?
That's covered under a different ordinance, 173. We had gone over that house, it's called the housing maintenance ordinance.
Oh.
And then we went over that, I believe earlier this year, at the city council.
What about cars, you know, extra cars, or how many cars are?
I don't believe there's a limit on the number of cars. We do have an ordinance, 170, regarding nuisance vehicles. Pretty much states that any non-roadworthy vehicle has to be within 4 walls, so it could be shelter, garage, etc.
Not all over the backyard.
Well, it doesn't, we don't have an ordinance. Or parked on lawn.
No covenant.
I'll call them to compute that, okay. Just a thought, because there are some of these places where there's a lot of this stuff laying around, but.
Right. Is there any questions in regards to the adoption of the ordinance 205 code? Obviously, we can still go back and make changes. I think it's something we need to get on the books and
I'd
start
like
to
to thank
enforce.
the committee, I mean, them guys, people worked hard and that needed a overhaul.
I'll move.
I agree.
Second?
So a motion by Mr. Washington, seconded by Mr. Fetch. Any other discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Wojni.
Yes.
Sensala.
Yep.
Fetch.
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Conrad.
Yes.
Bills of general account, and pay request number 1 for Gerke Excavating, Ashley TID number 3 project in the amount of $181,894.53. That building has come along quite quickly, actually.
This is all been.
Yep, that's coming out of the TID.
Right.
Everything in my house.
Now, do we have from Davy saying that we should pay that?
Yes,
Yes.
right there.
Okay, I thought I saw that earlier.
Yep. I think it's under there
got some questions.
Yeah.
This was from back in, I think you guys approved it before October, right?
Oh, it was like.
Like in the summertime?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
All right, just one second.
I'm sorry.
In there was a bill from Regulated and Hash Construction, from the summertime to dredge material down on Turkey Creek. It was put out to bid. Would you call it a bid or just,
It was a bit.
we had, I think, 3 or 4.
3,
About three, yeah.
it was
Three different-
accepted May 28th by the council.
Okay. They did the work on 10-2.
Yep.
The bid was for 1,208 yards. I'm guessing what was bid out.
2,108.
Oh, they have hours on here, I guess, sorry. And dredge removed, right?
That's 1,208 yards, yeah, 2,108 must have been a typo.
Yeah, because he has 1,208 yards dredge material removed from Turton Creek for $9,664 is what you guys had approved at that meeting. We got the bill this month. They removed 209.63 extra yards at a cost of $1,677.04. So an increase of about 14%.
But the rate per yard was the same.
Right.
So why did we remove 209 more yards?
Because it was a, by gosh and by golly, when you looked at it, it was high in spots, low in another, and it was a guess at 2,000 yards. It really was. The only way to figure it out would have been to get Davey in here. And if they would have, if they would have went along with the laser and checked it all out and went back and figured it out,
11,341.
And what was the original price? 9,000?
96.64.
So $1,677 more than what we were anticipating.
Correct.
And it would cost more than that baby come in and check it out.
Right. And
They did the work.
the way it worked, Haig's bid was 11,956.
Okay.
Hesch's was 96.64. And Centerbox was 14,050. You accepted Hesch's bid. And I didn't think it would be perfect because it's high and low.
Right.
So,
But the job was done well?
yeah. 3 days, 2.5 days, it was all done and over with. And we went back and put the erosion mat on the banks, just like they said. And the beauty of it was, is they were working on that bridge because if you remember, there was like gonna be possibly like a $4,000 charge for you had to get a flag man through them and all these permits. Well, they were working on the bridge, so they didn't have any trains coming through.
So you did it
The
at the
train
same
would
time.
come through, they'd stop them, let them through, them guys would come back, work on the bridge, and then Hesh was, and he actually did them, I mean, reached underneath the bridge pretty good too, you know, better than it was even last time. Cause I got pictures from the last time they did it, and it was a better job this time than last.
Is there time for other questions?
Yeah. Is there money to pay this?
That's what I asked.
Wasn't it 2,108 yards under?
No, it says 1,208 yards.
Is that the
Yes,
thing
there
you
you go.
showed me today?
Yeah.
I'll swear it was 2,108.
Nope, it's 1,208.
Huh. I must be
I don't have
dyslexic.
that- I don't have that report with me.
I mean, that's what's on their bill, is 1,208.
Yeah, I looked at that today and I thought I seen
Well,
2,108.
it's on here for that. I just wanna make you aware that this is, came in over what was original.
Right, and how I did it before I just staked it off where I wanted it done. And they come and looked at it and they each give us this bid, so. I don't
His
know,
original bid said estimated, didn't it? I think it said an estimate.
Yeah, because with that high water, that came in handy, just with the water we've had in the last.
yeah, I
last
actually
3
checked
weeks.
it out, it was working pretty good.
Mr. Conrad, you had another question?
Yeah, $281 for Tom's Lock Service, rekeyed locks at City Hall. I'm assuming that's the gray door out front?
Yes, and then.
Why did we do that?
Why did we do that?
Yeah.
We had a change in mayor and we had a change in city hall staff. And the key lock, we had, Diana had keys given out to the PD and I made the decision to rekey it just for security.
Did, You didn't rekey into your office though, from the city hall, from the council chamber into there?
Yes,
All the
all the doors.
How about the police? How do you do that if it's a thumbprint? Take his thumbprint out?
Yes,
Yes.
I take care of that
But,
one.
I mean, it wasn't just one single thing, you know, our key log was not overly accurate. And, we had two, you know, a changeover in two positions, and it's certainly not a reflection on anything other than security of the building.
Yeah, but did any of them employees or elected officials have keys to every other building in the city?
I don't think so.
I'm asking.
I can't answer that.
I don't,
Judy did not.
No one had it. no one had a key for our building that I'm aware of.
Well, I didn't know, you know, cause to change that key into the council chambers, other than me and Bob's comprehensive plan, there's nothing in there anybody would want. You know, are there other things we should be thinking about? And I'm not saying anybody would do anything, but
I mean, we could look at getting a cost of changing all the keys, I'm not so sure it's worth it.
I don't think it's necessary.
We had talked about doing a key fob but, you know, key fobs are not infallible. You know, my husband has one for the ambulance garage, there's every once in a while where it doesn't work. And so when Chief Anderson and I had talked about that, she thought it might be a good idea to have one entrance that was keyed and not a key fob, so we have the thumbprint to get into the PD.
are we changing the camera as we go in there?
We don't need to, it goes all the way through now.
Oh.
So it was suggested that we have one keyed entrance, which we maintain, we have an accurate key log, we know who has what key.
Are we getting keys?
Yes, if you would like a key, come in and we'll sign one out too.
I have a couple more questions too.
Is there any other questions
Need your
about this?
fingerprints in order to do that.
Bills?
That's no problem.
What's the Health Traditions, $641.70 for Cobra?
We had an employee leave that elected to take Cobra for a month, and so, he came in and paid that, it's kind of an in and an out, but we have to pay Health Traditions for that Cobra, but he paid the month's premium to cover that Cobra for that.
Okay, and then, reimbursement for vehicle getting towed in error. I guess I'd like to know how a vehicle gets towed in error, that'd be my first question.
That would be a question for Chief Anderson.
What ended up happening is one of our part-time officers misunderstood what should be proper procedure for overnight parking on Main Street, and instead of issuing the individual a $10 overnight parking violation, the officer towed the vehicle, which was a fault at our department, and I felt that we needed to take care of that issue because we were in the wrong, and we reimbursed them and wrote them a letter of apology.
And did we give them the $10 ticket?
No, we did not.
Was that the same one that woke me up in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been addressed,
Thank you.
obviously.
And, are we on one cellular plan now?
Yes,
Cause I see a US Cellular 5441 that was just for when John started on it?
that was the last phone for Mayor Kimmel. That phone got switched over in the beginning of November.
Do you have that
and
phone number?
Rob has,
I got this one.
You don't answer it
I do.
It's not on.
though.
It is on.
Okay, I'm glad to see it's all in one, all the eggs in one basket.
I have a question, the amount of $722 to Hale and Scamp attorney fees for Howard Wishgala condemnation. When did this, service occur, or when, from the law firm, and where are we going from here?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, it was passed back in last February? To start down the process of eminent domain by resolution.
So this is an old, This is from way back.
This is from way back, and they did prepare a, what's the word I'm trying to use, an offer, jurisdictional offer, which it just instructed
These
the whole.
expenses actually are for November.
By myself,
They're for
I
November?
budgeted to pay for that,
To pay for,
a jurisdictional offer.
right,
But they did the work,
right, so
but
you,
to submit it to Mr. Wojcicki did not happen.
okay, so is this something that will be under discussion some other time?
What was that?
The offer itself,
Well,
yes,
the whole, not just the
Yes.
offer, but the whole situation.
What
yes.
did you say will not happen?
Thank you.
I didn't say nothing will not happen.
The,
I just said the offer hasn't been submitted to Mr. Wojcicki.
A new offer, or never?
I can't only respond from when I was in office. There was an offer that was made that has not been made to him at this point. If there was an initial offer, I'm not aware of it, didn't have the law.
And we need to be careful because some of these items that we need to talk about regarding this matter needs to be in closed session.
Point well taken.
Is there any other discussion in regards to the bills?
Question on Davie Laboratories landfill monitoring. They do our landfill monitoring for, is it the water, air, water, or what? And is Green Alliance supposed to be doing some of that?
Well, Davey does the monitoring for the groundwater and the private wells. That information gets sent over to the DNR. And I believe that information gets sent over to Green Alliance to analyze also.
Okay, so Green Alliance isn't paying any of that?
Well, Green Alliance, their consulting contract stated that they should be doing work with that information. Remember, November meeting, let's see, no,
It was
December
December.
seventh meeting, the council decided not to pursue any action regarding that matter.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
There's gas for Express Mart, there's gas for BP, there's gas for Quick Trip, there's gas for Gordy's. The Gordy's one are all thrown together, the groceries, concessions, library, so you can't even tell how much gas was bought there. Can we separate that?
Sure. Do you want it, like, broken out by department, like, you would see?
Well, it wouldn't have to be department, I just think it's nice to be able to see how much gas they're using. Cause I know the BP one is small because the BP is gone, so that went to Express Mart, right?
Yes.
I would say.
It's just that sometimes if they're on that end of town, they go there instead of driving all the way up to the hill.
But yeah, we can split that out.
Well, like I said, it's just, the Gordy's bill is $1,489.52, well, how much of that was gas, we don't know.
Is that where you fuel your trucks, your diesels?
Gordy's, most of the time.
Like the garbage trucks and payloaders?
Payloaders,
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't pay to drive the payloader over.
payloaders, street sweeper, leaf vacuum, all that stuff gets fuel either out of a fuel tank down or at the shop out of the back of the pickup. Or if you're on this end of town and it needs it, because these guys are the only ones that off-road for 50 cents a gallon less.
What are you gonna afford to drive?
The only place in town that has off-road diesel at the pump is Express Mart.
So it's priced right, otherwise you gotta do all that paper trail. And that's a nightmare.
Right.
I did that at the time, you don't wanna go there.
Yeah, it'd be easier, like I said, it'd just be nice for it to be separated out so you can see,
Like a loader.
this was concession stuff and this was gas.
Any other questions? I believe we had a motion in a second, correct? No?
Who are they?
Then I'll entertain a motion to
So
approve. Mr. Sensala, looking.
I'll second it.
And a second by Ms. Colstead. Any other discussion? Here none, the clerk will call the roll.
Sensala.
Yeah.
Fett.
Yes.
Holsted.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
Wojni.
Yes.
Now typically we've had the pay request, as a separate motion
Okay,
for, because that's under contract.
okay,
Would that be a possibility?
that's fine. So, there's a motion
Fine.
and a second to approve the pay request from Gerke Excavating. Any discussion or questions?
You seconded that.
Clerk will call the roll.
Fett.
Yes.
Holsted.
Yes.
Conrad.
Yes.
Wojni.
Yes.
Sensala.
Yeah.
Future agenda items. If there is any, go ahead.
Review the Where's Gala situation, we've already mentioned that. I mentioned something about, a sign for the city indicating our meeting times somehow or another so that the public is aware of this. Yes, we put out our verification of posting, I just don't know how many people actually look at that. But maybe someday, a food for thought, if we had some kind of a sign indicating the meeting times and places such as maybe possibly using the bank or something like that, if we can entertain them to put that up on their board, or else maybe someday buying a sign, electronic type of a sign or something like that.
If we use smaller letters for their names in that box right next to the front door, and then that posted there?
How many people actually, when you drive by, would actually see that type of
In
thing?
an inexpensive way, could you do something like, they call them
Yeah.
sandwich boards and
Well,
just
like I
kind of
said,
pop out?
that's what they do for the elk meetings up in Independence, they put the sign out in front of the bar and they're having a meeting, that's it.
Yes, Supreme Graphics sells those things,
I don't know, you'd have to contact
You
someone.
can get, I know you can get them from Edge, cause I got one for race car.
Okay, well, something like that, things are great, and like when we have our voting down here, there's a sign. That's
That's
it.
the one.
There you go. Well, that'd be something, but maybe in the future, that'd be an idea, to get an electronic one, that'd be kinda neat. No, that's all I've got right now, thank you.
Okay.
Maybe we could rent that one from Don up at the sports bar there, he's not using it anyway.
Ms. Colston?
I think we have several items on the agenda, suggested from the past, so I don't think,
Mr. Conrad?
Nothing other than where we're gonna hold the meetings, is this gonna be it, or
It's okay with me.
what are you gonna do when it's
It's
40 degrees colder outside?
It's only gonna get
Cause
colder.
I'm about full sitting here.
I'm gonna get you some socks for Christmas or something.
Electronic ones?
Yeah.
Mr. Wojni?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Sensala?
No, I'm good.
I have one other thing. What's the situation with, a death in the family if it's a city employee and it would be his sister? Do we do anything for them? My understanding is Bubbles' sister died this morning. Is that within our scope of, to do something, send a bouquet or not?
I don't know.
It's in the policy manual, right?
Well, I mean, they get funeral time. I know that the TV and we at City Hall are doing a card. I don't know how far reaching,
Okay, that's all I have.
from the library, being on the library board, I can talk to Jenny and see if there'd be something coming from the library.
I would surely think there would be. 'cause
I
he's
would
an
too.
employee.
All right.
A comment along the same line, we lost a city person that was given a lot of his time to the community, Mr. Gerald Meyer. Could we pass a resolution, how would you say, supporting or giving,
Thanks.
that's a good word, giving thanks to a gentleman that's put in some.
And Bill and I are gonna get together tomorrow anyway, so we can draft something up for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
And utilities are buying a bench for her.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wojni, seconded by Mr. Fetch.
I thought
Clerk will call the roll.
that was your jinx, really.
Conrad.
Yes.
Wojni,
Yes.
Sensala.
Yes.
Petch,
Yes,
Olsted.
Merry Christmas.
Well, he told me that makes that part that because he said, you know what I found out? But what he told me would be the best thing to do